You make your way across to the UK for the first time. I think you're now 18.
Yeah, I think roughly 18. I think it was in 2004.
Yeah.
Gee,
So
I'm not very good with math, so
right,
you have to help me out here.
right. Okay, so 20-ish, I guess.
Yeah,
And
1920.
you get across the UK, and for a young boy who hasn't really had exposure to much of the world, what was it like when you first landed at Heathrow or wherever it may have been, which of the airports? Like, what was it first like when you got out? And I think you had a gentleman called Greg who was
Gary.
right? So
Yes.
Gary was actually your escort at the
Yes,
time, and he
my
was with you
sponsor,
for
my
6
friend.
months, right?
Ji.
So what was that like when you first got there?
So first I met Gary in 2000. I was in the monastery and somebody had told him that he's a computer programmer, a very good programmer.
Right.
And somebody must have told him that we have this young Rinpoche living up there in that small room. They pointed my room. You can see when you come to my monastery, it's just right up there,
Right.
with some trees on the 3rd floor. And they said there's a Rinpoche up there. He lives alone. He's a bit lonely. He's around 15, 16, and he has a very keen interest in computer and blah, blah, blah. So Gary was so shocked and he could not understand a simple young boy living in a room up there, having so much knowledge and, interest in computer.
Right.
So he came with his laptop.
Right.
And then he explained some things to me. So we became very good friends. We stayed in touch. He kept visiting Himachal. He's not religious, but he was just a very kind, man. And he taught me so many things.
Yeah.
And Gary is obviously much older than me. We became very good friends. And then he said, would you like to come to the UK? And I said, yeah, sure. And he said, from his perspective, he wanted to see how plucking somebody from such a conservative background and transporting him to such a liberal society,
right.
what would happen to that boy? So he wanted to see that journey. And I said, yeah, I would love to visit the UK for 6 months. And then he applied for a visa on my behalf. He sponsored everything. I went to UK. The first moment I reached Heathrow, it was crazy. It was a different world.
Yeah.
And he was living in Hammersmith at that time with a very good friend of his, Morna, and we lived together for about 2 months. It was, too many things at the same time, and it was overwhelming me. This is Sky channel, the TV channel.
Yeah.
In India, we used to what? ZTV, Doordarshan, maybe a few channels. Ladakh mein to aur bhi kam hai.
Correct.
All of a sudden, you had like 500-600 channels, and you didn't know what to watch.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, because I arrived in November, all of a sudden, the sun was setting around 2 p.m.
So true.
And I said, where's the sun? He said, he's gone. Itni jaldi. Because then he explained to me that we are slightly higher up in the hemisphere. The sun sets earlier. So these things were very shocking for me. And so many other things. Just say, I wanted to make tea. I wanted to go to the neighbor to ask for some milk. And he said, you don't knock the neighbor's door. So what do you mean? In India, you can just go to the neighbor, chai, doodh patti, whatever, chini weenie, you can just ask. And he said, you can't go. You have to go to the supermarket. I went to the supermarket. I think I bought like 2 kilos of sugar because I didn't know how to buy.
Yeah.
On the way, I saw a woman getting robbed in a dark alley. I didn't know what to do. Call the police, run away, try to intervene.
Yeah.
So these things really shocked me. The good side of society in the West, also the bad side also.
And it must have been a sensory overload also because from no exposure, being in your comfort zone, very productive environment, and then you're transported to a whole different world. It was a 180-degree switch.
Yeah,
so,
definitely. It was, but I think I wouldn't be the same person I am today had it not been for Gary and his experiment. Had it not been for those people who told him about this boy sitting in his room. That's where I believe in karma, Gauravji. I think in past life, there was a butterfly that fluttered its wing and now it created a typhoon in my life after many lifetimes or maybe after one lifetime. This chain of events, even if usme se ek bhi kadi, if even one link was broken, it would not have contributed to my growth in the same way that it did.
Oh, 100%. And I so agree. And of course, we'll spend a lot of time talking about karma and destiny and that piece as well. Because, like you mentioned, it is those experiences, that made you, who you are, today. And also there was a time that now, if we fast forward a few months, it's now time for you to come back because as your sponsor, he can only keep you there for, 6 months.
Yes.
And he's dropping you off at the airport. And what are you thinking that time? And, what's going through your mind?
Not very proud to say this. I did not want to come back. And I lived there illegally for about 1.5 years. I was not ready to come back. I wanted to explore more. I had made some friends. I wanted to just live a normal life and grow a bit more. So I think I was not ready to come back. So then he dropped me to the airport because he said he could not be responsible with the home office and everything legally.
Correct.
So I had 20 pounds in my pocket. So I went, he dropped me to the airport, to Heathrow. I came back, we were living in Newbury, Berkshire, where they have the famous race course, you know, and Vodafone ka headquarters bhi hai. I remember that. So I came back, I had nowhere to go. I went to the park, I knew the park. So I slept on the bench for about, I think, few days, on the roadside also for few days.
No.
You know, 20 pounds mein kya milega? So I just bought some bread, some very simple food. It was very tough. Then literally, I had a friend that time, John, a Malaysian guy, very nice, a chain smoker. You know, really, he used to smoke a lot. Yeah, that's one thing I remember. What lovely guy. He had a girlfriend, and I think they'd broken up. Her name was Angel. I knew her briefly, and I treated her like a didi. She was older than me. So she treated me like a younger brother, and we went out a few times. Then I didn't meet John when I came back from the airport.
Right.
So Angel, she found me on the street, and she said, "What are you doing, brother?" And I said, like, I have nowhere to go. And literally, she became the angel in my life, and she took me in. And I slept on her small room. She had a small bed. She was going through her breakup ka pain. She had her stories with me. I used to listen to her. I used to tell her, "Didi, don't worry," like an elder sister. I used to sleep on the floor. So a few weeks, you know, then I recovered and I got a job, and, you know, slowly,